I would certainly prefer to have more Q&A and interaction. Though when we are talking about the topic of your conversation, I think there are several things to keep in mind. The fight that Ukraine is in is not just a purely territorial fight. It's not as much a territorial fight. It's a fight, it's a very ideological one. And the ideology is based on the things, on choice between Soviet way of life and between what is something aspiring to what kind of some more modern, more European, more open society, democracy, and a prosperous society. And actually, there is not an ethnic fight, because you know that people in Donetsk, in Donbass, I traveled extensively lately to Donbass, and I more or less, I think I understand what's happening there. It's not an ethnic thing in any way, because you get some places where people speak Ukrainian, but they feel pro-Putin. And most of the fighters in the Ukrainian army that fight for Ukraine are Russian speakers. And big part of them are ethnic Russians. And that clearly needs to be understood what we are dealing here with. We are dealing with, I was yesterday at a match in Dnepropetrovsk, Dnepr, in Warsaw. And most of the Dnipro fans, who are basically Russian speakers, were singing this famous folk song about Putin. And that was unimaginable. So what are we talking about? These are Russian speakers that have distinct idea what they're fighting against. And on the other hand, people in Donbass, they don't say they're pro-Russian, but in a way there is a Soviet fighting for Soviet legacy, Soviet way of life. It's like when I used to come to Kyiv in the 90s, I was always struck by the fact that, trams were running around, lights were on, people were walking out their dogs at night. And in Georgia, we had no lights, we had street fighting, we had secessionist conflicts, we had all kind of things. And we thought, well, look, they preserved something, some law and order. It's so nice. I really envy the Ukrainians. Looks like getting rid of Soviets brings these whole horrors. And the problem is that it's like a bad meat that you froze into the fridge. So Ukraine kind of kept this frozen in the fridge for a long time. It took it out, but the smell is still as ugly and even uglier than it would have been if they had unfrozen it in the 90s. It's really strikingly nice and brings lots of bad problems. And the reality is that that's this thing that, you have to, this is fight whether you get rid of it. It's not only about Lenin's monuments. It's about way of life. And I think the things Putin are relying on, and we often say, well, Russia lost its soft power, but I think Russia has some kind of power. It's not necessarily soft, but, something related to it. It's organized crime, corruption, and lack of initiative, people not taking decisions, bureaucracy not taking decisions, very slow process, institutions not serving people. These are all things that we inherited from Soviet past. And this is something that people are trying to get rid of, and if you get rid of it, Putin thinks it's like getting rid of him. He clearly identifies himself. So a corrupt guy or oligarch in Ukraine are his natural allies. Corrupt Ukrainian bureaucrats are his natural allies, somebody who, steals on supply, say, for the Ukrainian army, or for that people who alienate people from the state of Ukraine are his natural allies. Why was Donbass? Donbass was not about ethnicity. It was the fact that people there felt alienated from state institutions. People in Crimea felt alienated from the state of Ukraine because the state of Ukraine did not bring them development and progress. And where there is no development and progress, the void is filled by Putin with his ideology and with his invented world through his television stations. So what Ukraine really, the way for Ukraine to move on and to get rid of is to create for people opportunities and to show them that Ukrainian democracy really brings prosperity chances and eradicates corruption and brings social life to all the places, notwithstanding, of course, their ethnic origin and languages and they speak. And that's so the front are twofold. We have front on the war side, but the main front is here. The main front is in Kyiv, in Odessa, in Kharkiv, in state agencies, in the way how they tender out public purchases, the way how they approach, how long it takes to take a document from state agents, how long it takes to take construction permit, how much money is stolen or not stolen from certain transactions. That's what really creates a sense of state. And if you get rid of these problems, you are getting rid of Putin. Putin is much bigger than a personality. It's a way of life, way of thinking, way of approaching your own citizens, your own country, your own institutions. That's why when we pissed him off by the fact that we basically, when I'm talking about Georgia, we moved on in the right direction. And some people thought Saakashvili is crazy, just pinched Putin or called him some bad names, that's why Russia attacked Georgia. No. He attacked us because every Russian was starting to ask the question, if this horrible, hopeless Georgia made it, why Russia cannot make it? Why our traffic police is still taking bribes? Why, why we do still have potholes on the roads, and why Georgia has very good roads? Well, I traveled in Donbass, and besides Donetsk and some other couple of places, there are huge potholes everywhere. And that's one of the answers of the question why it made it easier for the Russians to spread their ideology. Where you have potholes, Russian television is listened much more to than in places where there is prosperity. So that's how we should approach the issue.